Our first episode was with Her Royal Highness Maharani Radhika Raje Gaikwad, and a very special thank you to her and all our viewers for making it so much fun. When I started this channel, I promised you that we will speak with people from different walks of life. So I'm keeping my promise today, and we're going to move literally from glitterati to literati as we invite our guest for today's interaction from the literary world, Mr. Tarun Gautam. Hi, Tarun. I'm going to request you to move your camera. It's showing
Am I
as yes.
okay? Good.
You're
Not
going to have to
adjusted.
change the orientation to portrait. Yes, perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Just give me a minute. Let me just try and see if I can do. Just put it on the stand. Is it okay now, or am I still tilted?
You're tilted. Yes,
Okay.
this is
So
better.
this is better. Okay. So now I need to just find a way to fix it because I was using a tripod.
Sure.
Uh,
So while you do that, I'm going to give an introduction about you to our viewers who are joining us live as we speak.
sure.
So Tarun studied his BTech from Kurukshetra University and worked with TCS for 7.5 years. After a short stint with the Royal Bank of Scotland, Tarun underwent his first career transformation when he took a break and joined the full-time MBA program at IIM Lucknow called IPMX. After successfully completing his MBA, Tarun, or TG as he's fondly called, played a key role as a co-owner in two management consulting startups. For the last 6 years, TG is working for a leading tech firm as regional sales manager and has traveled to over 20 countries. I'm told that all the time he spent at airport lounges waiting for his flight literally led to the takeoff of a passion which was deep inside him. And I'm going to pause and use this moment to quote Mary Angelou, who's a famous Black American poet and civil rights activist. And I'm quoting her in the light of racism that we are witnessing. And she said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." And I think that's exactly what happened with TG. So that's how Rewind and Play took off. And here's where I'm going to take a pause, and I can see that TG's adjusted his camera. So we're set to go live. And I'm going to invite you to share your journey about real transformations with us. How are you doing?
I'm good, Divya. And firstly, thank you so much for inviting me on your show. I think it's a brilliant concept, and I'm absolutely looking forward to interacting with all the people on the channel and just taking them through my journey. And let me first start by wishing everybody a very happy Friendship Day. It's very, I would say, poignant in the sense that we are doing this show about my journey, and which has a part of it, starting from my college days, and we're doing it on Friendship Day. So it's I think quite significant in that sense. So yeah, so really happy to be on the show, and let me just start by telling the viewers that mine has been a quite an interesting ride, and uh, it started from some very, I would say, uh, unforeseen circumstances, something that I never planned. And today, when I see myself here and look back, it seems quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that in your book, it's all about college and the friendships. So yes, a very happy Friendship Day. It's great that we're having this conversation today. So TG, we have lots to talk to you about, and I'm going to start by asking you, how did your transformation journey start from point of view of discovering your creative side, and how did it manifest itself in writing? How did it take root in this field?
Sure. So, if I, kind of dwell on the word you used, transformation, it's a fairly, I would say, heavy word in that sense, in one sense, and transformation is something very internal, right? And for me too, it was quite an internal process. And I wouldn't say that, it was one particular phase that led to a transformation, but I would say a series of transformations. It was not just one particular aspect or one particular phase which was completely transformational for me, but rather a set of those milestones. And I talk about it. But I think the first most uh, significant part in my transformation was during my college days. So, if I go back to my engineering days, and a lot of the engineers, I do not know how many engineers are there on this group, but I'm sure there must be, given the number of engineers that India produces, being the largest in the world, that a lot of us engineers are very tech oriented, and during our school days also, most of us are quite introverted, or I would say, more into books, and so was I. So my initial years at college also were very much confined to my books, but I realized that one, I'm not great at studying. So studies is not really my forte, in the sense that I'm not too much of a theoretical person, but I realized a very different aspect of myself, that my learning is more experiential, right? So in a way, an introverted person like me, I had to challenge myself to come out of my shell, right? And that really was the really real starting point, because I had to kind of, one, survive in an engineering college, two, to be second, to be able to excel, and third is to be able to enjoy yourself. So I realized that if I had to do all three of these, just being confined to my books is not going to help, right? So really, that was the starting point, but it wasn't that easy. So say somebody who's not an orator or a natural orator, to start challenging oneself to kind of start getting into debates, it isn't easy. So that really was transformational. And if I look back, the one thing I never gave up on was challenging myself. You know, just telling myself that it's not going to happen overnight, and all I need to do is just keep giving myself time. So to answer your question specifically, it was my college days, and certain part of my college days, when I kind of said that let me explore parts of myself. So that's how my creative journey started. And so I participated in quizzes. I organized a fashion show. So all of those things, kind of brought out the creative side of me, not just the technical aspect, the studious aspect, but more the creative side. And then when you just let your hair down and kind of start enjoying things, you discover a lot about yourself.
Yeah, that's really how, you challenge and push yourself and move towards that transformational path, one step at a time. So I'm going to show everybody your book. So
Wow.
TG, is that you? One of them,
No,
is
no.
this you?
Yeah. So if you were to choose one amongst those three, so then the one riding the scooter would be me, because I used to
Okay.
have a scooter. I used to have my dad's scooter, a very old Bajaj Super, and with a very unusual number plate, and quite an antique piece. So that would be me.
So is this largely somewhat autobiographical or semi-autobiographical? Because it starts by saying Hostel Diaries of a Frustrated B.Tech. And I want to take a moment here to just read the synopsis for some of our viewers
Sure,
who haven't read your book.
sure.
Um, so the protagonist is Raghav Diwan. Raghav Diwan is living the American dream, a successful career, a comfortable and happy married life. One day, he receives an invitation to an evening get together with his college batchmates. He has not kept in touch with any of them and has no desire to meet them. But the past seems to be calling to him. The past wants to reveal something to him. Will he open the door and let the past in? Will he press rewind and play?
Right.
So, was this largely autobiographical, based
I,
on
I
a
would
lot of
say
your?
I would say yes. It was partly autobiographical, because a lot of the incidents that have been mentioned in the book have really occurred. They occurred in some shape or form. Of course, not putting them into the exact form would I think be have been very sensible, because that would have let a lot of secrets out of the bag. So I just wanted to keep those under wraps. But yes, definitely they have been influenced and kind of been inspired by those incidents. Yeah.
So, this is a very interesting choice of topic for your first book, which is about
Right.
your college. And Chetan Bhagat and a few other writers have pretty much, written in this genre. So, what made you choose this as the topic for your first book?
Sure. So, when I started writing or picked up, the pen and said, now I'm going to spend some time penning down a book. So I had three concepts in my mind. It wasn't just that this was the only one. So in fact, I had about three stories, which I wanted to take to the people and to my readers. But I chose this one for, I'll tell you the specific reason, and you brought up Chetan Bhagat. So, firstly about Chetan Bhagat, I would say that one, I think his contribution to literature in India is amazing. People have an opinion about his writing today, and people are free to do that. But I think one must give him credit for two things. One is, making reading less elitist. If you roll back the clock, you would probably recall that maybe readers were considered very elitist at one time. It was not
Yes,
mainstream.
yes.
People were kind of slotted as being more intellectual if they found reading, right? So a
Hmm.
certain class of people, for whatever reason, never picked up a book, right? So a lot of credit to Chetan for actually uh, kind of breaking that glass ceiling and making
Hmm.
reading accessible to everybody, right?
Hmm.
Because a lot of people didn't pick up a book because they felt that one, their English isn't good enough to be able to grasp the content, or maybe it's not even worth their time. So I think Chetan did that. uh, the second thing that he did, I think, is kind of created a market for authors, right?
Hmm.
Because uh, authors before that were mostly either full-time writers or writers who were more closet authors. They were just stories in their mind but never brought them out. So I think he kind of created this path for people to kind of explore this talent of writing, and I think you've seen a spate of writers after that. Now, why I chose Rewind and Play was after I read Chetan's book, 5 Point Someone, I somehow felt that my college days, and this is, I'm saying it with a bit of arrogance, were 100 times much more interesting than his, right? So I kind of wrote the book with a bit of arrogance, saying that, if these days, college days were interesting of yours, mine were 100 times more interesting. So, that's what kind of drove me. But I said in a positive sense, kind of also being inspired by him, because he had the courage to write about his college days. So in a way, I kind of followed him and said that, why don't I write about my college days? And of course, it's for you viewers to decide, the readers to decide whether the book really is interesting enough, and takes them back to their college days or not.
It takes a lot of courage to talk about college days and all the gochies we used to do back then. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to take this opportunity to read a short paragraph from the book. And I'm also going to invite you after that to tell us what are your favorite excerpts from the
Wow.
book. Yeah.
I
So
hope
this
I
is,
hope you pick up a less embarrassing one, but now that it's out in the open, there's not much I can do.
it's published and you wrote
Yes, I
it. So,
know. I know. Yes. Please.
so this is a chapter called Eureka, and I'm reading from page 104. Um, Devinder was carefully drawing circuit diagrams. Venki looked closely. There were small sheets of paper. What are these? Asked Venki. Don't you know what these are, you moron? These are cheat sheets. I've never used them, said Venki with pride. Okay, great. Now buzz off. Venki was taking a shower and thinking hard about how to get out of the mess when all of a sudden an idea struck him. Like Archimedes, he jumped out of the bathroom and ran to Devinder's room. Give me some of your sheets, Venki said to Devinder. Devinder couldn't control his laughter when he saw Venki standing in front of him with only a towel around his waist, wet, disheveled hair, and water dripping on the floor. What happened now to Mr. I don't use cheat sheets? Copy them quickly and return them to me, said Devinder with a snigger. Venki returned to his room, looking at the sheets. They were small pieces of paper with circuits intricately etched on them. Devinder's handwriting was excellent, and they looked like prints. He quickly got dressed and rushed to the college photocopier shop. Venki asked the shopkeeper to print copies of the cheat sheets. The boy spread the cheat sheets on the photocopier and cut out the copies. Venki carefully cut each of the diagrams into small chits. He walked back to Devinder's room and returned the sheets to him. You wrote them pretty fast, said Devinder. No, dude, I just used some brains. See these. Devinder saw his handwritten sheets in black photocopied ink. This is crazy. You even copied the sheet for copying, said Devinder. Just then, Sahil entered Devinder's room to return his shaving cream. What's going on, guys? Sahil saw the small chits in Venki's hands. What the hell are these? You bugger! You photocopied the diagrams. You'll get caught, warned Sahil and stormed out of the room. Devinder and Venki looked at each other with the chits in their hand. Suddenly, the door opened and Sahil was there again. Do you have the chit for the amplifier circuit? That one's a bit complicated. Within the next 30 minutes, half the batch of the class had lined up outside the photocopier shop. Most of them copied at least one circuit diagram that they were scared of. Soon the examination hall slowly filled with nervous students. The question papers were distributed. To everyone's shock, Professor Murthy threw another surprise at them. The circuit diagrams were given and they only had to assemble them. Professor Verma was invigilating the practical exam. The atmosphere was quite relaxed. Venki looked at the question paper. It was now very easy with the diagrams given. Soon, he was completely engrossed in assembling the components that he forgot he had the cheat sheets with him. Professor Verma walked up to Venki and Vikas to check on their progress. Since both of them were good students, he didn't expect them to face any problem. Gentlemen, hope all is well. Yes, sir. I've connected the source and I'm observing the output now. Things seem fine. Professor Verma looked around and walked away. As he moved away, he saw a piece of paper lying on the ground. He picked it up to see what it was. He saw a circuit diagram on it. Immediately, he suspected something was fishy. He turned around and stood next to Venki. What is this? Venki was shocked to see the cheat sheet in Professor Verma's hand. He couldn't say anything. He just stood there, transfixed. The professor put his hands into Venki's pant pocket and pulled out the cheat sheets. Sir, I was not cheating. What is all this? Come out of the hall immediately. Venki was at his wits' end as he realized his folly. Outside the exam hall, Professor Verma looked at the sheets carefully and found that they were handwritten. They were not handwritten, but photocopied. These are photocopied. I can't believe this. So that means there are others out there. So, I mean, this takes me back. Imagine talking about this in a book, and this takes all of us back to those fateful moments where we've all done something really stupid in either a quiz room or the exam room. So this was one of my favorite pieces.
So Divya, let me ask you, when you read this story, this particular chapter, what were your thoughts? I mean, firstly, would you have had the courage to do firstly this part, which is to make cheat sheets and get them photocopied? And did you think it was unique enough? So I mean, just give me your thoughts firstly on this, and then I'll take you through my journey.
Yeah. So I've not done anything like this, but I've seen some very creative stuff happen in exam halls. Not this, of course. This, I think, really, when I read it, I was like, okay, this is something else. But yes, we've all had our fair share where we've seen very creative stuff. I've seen people make little chits and tie them with a string of paper and, put it inside their sleeve and then pull it out and put it back in. It's been crazy. But this was something else.
So, this is something that I would, call my moment of madness. I say it with a bit of pride that I've been a student who's been happy to fail, but, very, I would say, careful about not treading the wrong path. So, in a normal test also, wherein it was quite agreed, sometimes our tests were so tough that it was an agreed thing that, people would study in pairs. right? There would be two people studying together because they knew that one brain is not going to be enough for this test. So you will need two brain, and the two brains would sit down together, and then so they would be the worst of friends, they would be the best of enemies actually. But before the test, they would form an alliance that now we need to survive. So we need to study together, and we need to sit in the exam and hall, and of course try and share stuff while the exam is going on and pass. But kind of I was somewhat the conscientious one, and I would never do that. So I would be there alone by myself writing a paper, and I would get average marks and sometimes even close to failing marks, right? But I did that happily. But this I would call is my moment of madness, and this was kind of very very out of the world, and kind of also about myself as a person who's I think I'm a natural ideator. I get these ideas and I just start pursuing them. So it was this madness moment that I had, and I came up with this idea that why can't a cheat sheet be photocopied? Imagine if look at the effort that this guy is making in writing it down. I actually looked at him and said, he's so stupid. I mean, why can't he just make these
Might as well photocopy it.
Photocopy them and let's distribute it in the whole class. So and this whole thing got snowballed into something big. Everybody got so excited. The diagrams are very difficult. We all went along, and can you believe it? As fate would have it, when God makes sure that you learn a lesson, then he really takes you down the top route. So I didn't want to use it. Chhappar paar ke deta hai. So you won't believe it, when the exam paper comes, I know all the answers, and I just happily do them. And those cheat sheets are just lying in my answer sheet. And the professor, who has got zero interest in me, that day just walks up to me and just starts flipping my notebook. And there he finds those, and I know I'm finished. And you wouldn't believe what happened after that. Of course, it's there in the book. So, 5 of us got caught. Then we had to plead to the professor, and they kept giving us the impression. So what happens is that if you do something like this, it goes as a UMC, unfair marks case. So you will actually be debarred from writing exams for the next 2 years. So you actually lose 2 years. So thankfully, because of a decent reputation that all of us had, we were let off the hook. And I really call it my moment of madness. And but today, after doing my MBA, sometimes I have another moment of madness. I think of it saying that, why didn't I make money out of it? I could have actually charged people for the photocopy, but that would have been even worse. I would have even been beaten up by the people.
MBA सफल हुआ.
Yeah.
Oh
so
God,
that's what it was.
Really
and
crazy.
but there were learnings from that, Divya. The learning, and this is the learning that I would like to share with everybody. That we do face the challenges in life, and we will be, as corporate executives, as normal citizens. We'll always have a choice to make between a black, white, or a gray, right? And here I would say that I took something as a gray area. I tried to take that risk. I moved from the white to the gray, but actually there is no gray. Fundamentally there are mostly blacks and whites. It's so such is my learning from life, that try and stay away from as much of risks and these kind of paths in the future. And that's what has been my learning, and I just hope that I can carry that, because today when I'm faced with these challenges, I actually go back to that day and the promise that I made to myself after that incident, that I will kind of not take it easy, because you can easily be swayed. You start thinking that what difference will it make, right? It maybe it's harmless, but actually it's not. What you're doing, you're actually doing something wrong. And in fact, today I look back and say it's good that I got caught, because it left me with a lesson for my lifetime. Because had I not been caught, even to take the case wherein I was not cheating and did not get caught, it still would have left in me this kind of notion that you can actually get away with it, right? So I'm happy that it happened. It was traumatic. Those weeks were traumatic for us. As students, that's the last thing you want, to be kicked out of college.
I'm sure, yeah.
I know your career depends on it, your future
your
depends on it.
Your entire career, your future becomes at stake.
So if my professor is listening, my director is listening, a lot of regard for them, that they kind of went with their gut about me, that and the rest of the group, that actually they were really good students, but who just wanted to, maybe take a chance. So that happens in college life, right? So
Yeah.
that was what my learning was from this whole thing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. No, completely agree. You should try to keep your life as much in the clear zone rather than, in the
Yes.
gray zones. So
Yeah.
Tarun, now see you're married and you have a daughter. So I wanted to check with you, like, and with your full-time job, how did you find time to write? Can
Yeah.
you share some tips about that? And is
Sure.
writer's block something real?
Yeah. Okay. So the first question is about the time management side. So here I would say, Divya, that firstly I wasn't good at time management myself. Before I went into writing, I was actually a very poor time manager, and the reason why I say that was, I would kind of love that work fills my entire time. I was very happy living in a world wherein 5 days a week I'm slogging, I'm working, and then even if I'm bringing work to my home during the weekends, I was kind of happy. And in fact, I used to feel quite insecure if I had to do something other than work. In fact, I was happily a workaholic, a happy workaholic, and a lot of the organizations where I worked, I was kind of happily giving my entire days to them.
I can second that because what happens is you get into such a comfort zone that anything out of that is it just seems like something unusual. So that seems to be a natural thing you just
Absolutely.
ease into and you just zone out.
Yeah. And you kind of keep telling yourself that, there's so much of work that you actually need to
Yeah.
start living in this
You need to
reality.
respond to the email right away. You need to, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And, when I took up writing, I actually became a much better time manager and in fact, much more efficient in my day job because the secret really was prioritization, right?
Right.
So prioritization is something that, it seems very simple and anybody can use that word, we all kind of say prioritization. But making a conscious effort to implement it and to make it a part of your daily life, that's really key. So how you really prioritize, and in fact there are a lot of prioritization tools. So I in fact kind of started following them and being very methodical in that sense, and that's where I could get to a stage of being able to say that this is my writing time and this is my work time, and try and keep them separate. So I mostly wrote during the weekends, and like I said, on my flights. I know why flights were good because uh, I found that even weekends weren't that great because as an author, as a writer, you need some real uh,
Quiet
you know
time.
quiet time, downtime. You just have to have nothing around you, and that only came from flights, because on a flight, there are strangers around you, you're not talking, you served a meal, that's it. And of course there are these long layovers, that and you're pretty much nothing much to do. So I utilized that time to write, and it's kind of it was a ideal world, because one, you had the time, second, it has the right amount of buzz.
Yeah.
You also and it's a very personal thing. For me, the dead quiet also wouldn't have worked. It's
Mm.
just the people around me, just the buzz around me, was really key in getting my creative juices flowing. So that's what it was. And when you asked about writer's block, so the way I see it, it's a very personal thing, how writers go about doing their craft. But I personally have not experienced too much of it. My bigger challenge has been around the time side of it, trying to find time. Whenever I had time, I've been able to kind of progress the story. Though, of course, there are times when you actually have nothing, substantial to contribute, and then that's when you just maybe write one sentence and just leave it. So it's real, definitely. But in my case, I would say I wasn't uh, overtly, bothered by it. But definitely, it is a real thing. See, the creative process, Divya, in itself is very irrational. There is not much rationality to it.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so you can't sit and just conjure a story.
You can't. It's
So
when
most of the story, yeah, it
it
comes to you.
comes, then you're able to write, and there are days when it just doesn't come.
Yeah. And writing in itself, in my short journey as a writer, I've realized that it's a very dichotomous field as well. While you want your readers to appreciate a book and read it, actually you are writing only for yourself. The writing process fundamentally is
Can
only
you
for yourself.
explain that a little? Yeah, because
Yeah.
that sounds very
See,
interesting.
yeah. See, we all want our work to be, read by millions of people and all. But just think of it. We never ask those millions of people who are reading our book, what is it that they want, right?
Right.
It's so we are actually just writing what we feel from our heart and hoping that would connect with those people. So
Yeah.
it's and we really people who even don't want to be influenced by, say, publishers. Publishers have their own view of how a story should take shape,
Should sell.
should sell, right? But
Hmm.
at the core of it, if you ask any writer, any author, he'll be the happiest when his story is reached the readers the way he wants it. You know,
Right.
so it's a very personal thing.
Yes.
You're not writing it for Divya. You're not writing it for that person. You're writing it for yourself. But somewhere you want
Hmm.
you are saying, gets connected to the people. So it's a very internal, a very personal kind of a journey, as a creative field. And the one thing I've realized in about the creative people, and I'm certainly I'm just a newbie compared to the others. Talk about the stalwarts like Ruskin Bond and Salman Rushdie and so many of them. The amazing part I've realized about the creative field is that the impact that it can have on a person is
Hmm.
immeasurable. Divya, just think about it. The satisfaction, suppose you are thousands of miles away from your loved one or your friends and something, and you're reading a book, and that one particular line, one particular phrase from a poem or from a movie or from a book takes you and connects you with them. It cannot be measured. The emotional value of creative work is phenomenal. What it can really do for people. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, not that my book would have done it in that regard or not, but that's the power of creativity.
Wow. I can share, like, there are some lines in the book where, I could just see that these were sort of your thoughts and flowing through and connecting so powerfully. And when you say it's about that internal process where you're attracting your authentic audience, like your, people who connect with those thoughts. Yes, that's a very personal thing in writing because it's
Yeah,
just the
yeah.
book in you and nothing else.
Nothing else.
So
Exactly.
So here's a
Yeah.
question coming in from our viewers, and I want to request
Sure.
everyone that please post your questions in the Q&A tab. You can also post them in the comments if you like, but Q&A tab is good. So how easy or difficult was it to find a publisher? And if you can just give us some sort of overview on the economics of, the whole pricing piece, like how
So
does that happen?
So for anyone who's getting into the writing field and starting to do some research on Google, you'll find that there are several options now that have emerged. Over a period of time, the publishing industry has changed enormously, right? The entire field has changed enormously. One is that writing is kind of now becoming easier for authors. One, because of access to tools. You have a computer, you have a laptop, you have research at your fingertips. So writing has become a lot more easier. As a result, there are a lot more books in the market today. But at the same time, the readership kind of has, I would say, facing its own set of challenges. As a reader, you have a lot more options today. You have a Netflix, you have an Amazon, you have a movie theater, so many other options, and there's also constraints on your time. So how do you try and find time to writing? And that's kind of try and kind of had some impact on the publishing industry. So in a way, a business model which has emerged is called the self-publishing route. Okay,
Okay.
and so the first, I would say, edition of Rewind and Play was a self-published venture.
Okay.
That was for two reasons. One, I was a little, I say, anxious about my book coming into the market. I wanted it to come early on, and second was, I didn't try too many, regular publishers. So as a first step, I just went the self-publishing route. Then, of course, I got selected by Tree Shade, and Tree Shade then published my book. So Tree Shade is an upcoming publishing agency, very, very reputed, and I would say, very competent group of people who are running this entire organization. So they picked up my book, and then of course started the, I would say, the second phase of the book. So largely, you'll have the self-publishing route and the traditional publishing route. From a pricing standpoint, if I were to kind of summarize it, it depends on several factors, and a lot of them are subjective, depending upon what is the publisher's appetite in terms of investing in the book. Factors such as what genre it is, what are the number of pages, all of those play a role. So take the example of a Chetan Bhagat. The Chetan Bhagat book is less priced because it sells in millions. Okay, probably he's the highest selling author in India. So obviously his books will be priced slightly lower. But if you have other authors, if you're a new author, obviously you can't expect those kind of numbers. So it has an impact on the price, and then comes the balancing act. The publisher has to see, the book needs to be sold, but at the same time also profitable for him. So all of those factors play a role in terms of pricing. Yeah.
Okay. And here's an interesting fun fact about TG. TG has actually put together a work from home campaign. That was before the pandemic, and the
Yeah.
objective of that was to reduce pollution. And you had shared that with the Delhi government. So tell us
Yeah.
something about that. And did they take some things from that and implement it during the pandemic?
Yeah, so this was again, a brainchild which came to me when I was, doing these trips to office from my Vasant Kunj home, which is about 30 odd kilometers, and my workplace was in Noida. And it used to be crazy driving through the traffic, and I had gone to that level that I had started to count the red lights on my way, and I knew that there were 27 red lights, and I could even in my mind know the timing, and I could know the routes to take, because I knew there were 6 to 7 routes that were available. And so if this red light took these many seconds, I had to move to that one. So it became crazy for me. And I had a hard stop at 7:30 every morning to leave from work. I was having my breakfast while I was driving. My
While
parathas rolled up
driving.
while changing my gears. So that and I realized that was the life of an average Delhiite, right? You have people driving from Noida to Gurgaon to
Yeah,
Delhi,
same
so on and
here.
so forth.
I've
Yeah,
been doing Delhi Gurgaon for 10 years now. And it came to a point
imagine
where apart madness. So,
spot
of course, I would
madness.
have breakfast in the car, but then eventually I started doing yoga in the car and playing violin in the car, and it became like nuts because, beyond a point, your brains just get fried. But yeah,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so,
So that kind of led me to think that how can this problem be solved? And I
hmm,
realized that does everybody really need to come to work?
hmm,
We have 10 lakh companies in Delhi.
hmm.
Even 1% of them, choose to put 1% of their employees on work from home. Can you imagine the number of cars which would come down?
Yeah.
So I came up with this entire model, and I, uh, put this across to the chief minister's email address, and I got a very polite, nice response from the officer on special duty saying that it will be looked into. But apparently nothing happened for some time. Then I got in touch with the environment minister as well. I floated the idea there. Again, the response came, wonderful idea. I did a change.org campaign, and I got
Yeah.
a good response from people in the public domain. They were quite enthusiastic by this. But the only thing that I heard from somebody in the ministry was that they did compile a list of suggestions to
Hmm.
reduce the pollution, and there were several ideas like electronic vehicles, etc. And I think so. Work from home also got a mention in that list. It did appear to
Hmm.
be the 10th idea, but it did get shortlisted from a large set of ideas, but never saw the light of the day. And I today when the idea is validated, actually, I kind of feel vindicated that I wish that somebody had thought of it, implementing it about 4 years back. Imagine how much of fresh air we would have been breathing, less traffic on the road, and so on. And I know this is also a very interesting topic, maybe a topic of discussion someday, and I'm happy to talk about it. Is the journey of an idea. you know
Hmm.
uh, just creating an idea is probably not enough. There is an entire journey that it takes, and
Right.
whether you're an implementer or a ideator, you have to have a certain bit of risk-taking appetite to be able to implement it. So solutions are there out there, but it we just somehow, because of our own I would say inertia, don't kind of come out of our shell to either accept those ideas
Yeah.
and even implement them. So that's a topic for another day. But
Yeah.
I love the experience of kind of taking this idea to the government, and I hope
Yeah.
that at least the people now hold on to the work from home idea as something which has been implemented and can be used in some shape or form. It's not the panacea for all evil, but it has some value.
Absolutely. And that time no one would have, I'm sure, even imagined how do you do a work from home, even if it's for 1% of staff, and see what has happened in the pandemic. And
Yeah,
now
yeah,
everybody has understood that not only is it possible, productivity goes up, people are a lot happier, you're breathing cleaner air, it's better for the environment.
yeah,
And you have it works, most importantly. So
absolutely.
it takes a lot, as you said, to pioneer an idea and the journey of an idea. But yes, I've written that down. We're going to save that for another day. So I'm going to take
Sure,
a question from the audience. It's from Lata. She's asking, are you planning to write more books, and what topics?
sure. So I have two books actually planned, and in fact
Wow.
both of yeah, and one
So
of them is
has the pandemic helped you to kind of accelerate
I
the
thought
writing?
that I'll be able to do that honestly,
नहीं
but
हुआ?
vacuum cleaning and utensils and babysitting takes so much of my time that that's only been a notion in my head, and I haven't been
Uh,
able to implement it. But writing is going at a good pace. Just to answer
hmm.
Lata, yes, there are two books that I'm writing, and the next one is, in fact, I can share the names of both the books, tentatively titled. The first one is In Search of the Real Azad.
Okay.
That's my second book. And the third one is The Theatre School by the River. So both of them are fiction and, uh, you know, targeted towards the youth. In fact, in my second book, there will be a lot of the element about. So the second one is actually an adventure. It's a kind of a mystery, but has a strong element about India, our country, and us as Indian. That's what In Search of the Real Azad is about.
Wow. And you've actually inspired me to quote Mirza Ghalib ji at this point, which is हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले बहुत निकले मेरे अरमान लेकिन फिर भी कम निकले.
Wonderful,
Such a,
wonderful.
I mean, such just being party to this thought of yours with so much enthusiasm for the other two books that you have in the pipeline. We can't wait for them to hit the stores, TG.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really now am encouraged to complete them and bring them out to the people, and I just sincerely hope that all of you like it.
Yeah, and just before we wrap up the session, a quick comment has come in from Kunal. He's from IPMX 13, our batch.
Sure.
He couldn't join today because he's got a quiz at 6 o'clock. Typical
Uh-huh.
MBA life. But he says that he went online looking for your book, and there was only one copy left. So he immediately bought it, and so he just wanted me to share that with you.
Wow, wow, wow. That's very nice of him, and I look forward to getting his comments on the book, and hope he enjoys the book and it takes him back to his college days, and hopefully, he can tell me some of his anecdotes once we connect.
TG, this has been such a special chat with you. You've actually really shared, what goes on behind the scenes in terms of whether it is your personal experiences, how you got down to writing, the whole creative aspect, also about your time management, and the fact that writing is actually kind of a very personal journey, and it's a lot about self discovery. So we can't thank you enough for coming on the show, and thanks a lot to the audience. Okay, there's one more question. I'm going to take this if we just have a minute. Riddhika, what inspired you to write books?
So I would say that just the fact that I believed that if you have some talent, one should make the effort to kind of take it to the next level. So in fact, I took it as a challenge that if I felt that there was a creative side to me, I should kind of explore it further and bring it out. That is one. Second is, I think it's got to do with my upbringing. My father was a voracious reader, and we were kind of encouraged as kids to read a lot. And somehow, I think those stories that I read were there in my mind, and somehow I just kept thinking that these people have written so well. Maybe can I someday write something of value? And I think that really was inspiration. And of course, the other thing that really inspires you is the love of the readers. You know,
Yeah.
that's really the most heartening thing when you get responses from your readers. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but they've actually taken the effort to actually reach out to you. And I think that's really I would say the big thrill that you get out of being an author.
Absolutely. So thank you, TG. And any last comments from you? We'd
Firstly,
love
thank
to
you
hear
so
that.
much, Divya, for organizing this. It's been such a wonderful chat. Your questions have been wonderful. They've taken me down my journey. So I would love to rewind and play on another topic sometime. So great interacting with you and great interacting with all the people on the channel. And I wish them again a very happy Friendship Day. Just leaving them with this bit of a fact. I do not know if they're aware. So happy. So Friendship Day actually came about from the Hallmark company. It came up as a way to promote the cards. So
The
while
greeting
you may not
cards.
the greeting card, so you may not send a Hallmark card to your friend today, but at least send them a WhatsApp message, give them a call, and go back and relive those days. Friendship is way too valuable to be lost.
What a beautiful thought. Thank you so much, TG, for that. And
Thank you, Divya, and thank you, everyone. Have
yeah,
a great
thanks
evening.
everyone. Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye. Take care.